And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China!
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China! All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China!
Russian.
Russia!
Italian.
Italy!
German.
Germany!
Swedish.
Sweden!
Korean.
Korea!
Egyptian.
Egypt!
Nigerian.
Nigeria!
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit, like God's property. It's hard to market, so we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. 'Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
This gentleman right here. This gentleman right here. Huh? What happened? No, this the gentleman right here with the camera in his hand. Wave your hand. Pastor.
James Wesley Carr.
Yeah, James Wesley Carr. No. What's your name?
Oh, Kelly Richardson.
Kelly Richardson.
Pastor Kelly Richardson.
He is a great-great-grand-nephew?
Yeah.
Nephew of one of our first pastors. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's his uncle right here in the corner of the actual stained glass window here to your left.
You got the eyes.
It looked just like him. Got the same eyes. Anyway, come on, guys. Come on. Stand up here looking like. Look on the outside edge of the pews. Look on the outside edge of the pews where you are. You see the different markings alongside the edge of the pews? They represent the different tribes that made up our congregation back then and spoke over 6 different languages among themselves. These were small tribes enslaved by larger tribes and sold to Europeans as they came along the African coast. One of the major languages they spoke back then was that of Aramaic and also too of Hebrew, which means the writings read from bottom to top. Assalamu alaikum. Which means peace be unto you. It's not a Muslim term. It's actually the same greeting which Christ gave into the disciple when he met them in that region. Most countries in that region read from right to left. Here in America, we read from left to right. That's why the pastors in the St. Glass window up front here are going in numbers 2 through 7 from the right-hand side over to the left, to the left, to the left.
This is First African Baptist Church, the oldest black church in North America. The building, built by slaves. The gentleman that laid the first brick laid the last. The balcony hold pews that actually were built by slaves. They have the oldest information in this building. That information is written in cursive Hebrew writing.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered? Because they went west.
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that. I'm one of them. I know that.
Because, you know, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
You know what you are? You're an ancient Israelite.
Ancient Israel, that's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time,
But
all that he said,
I know. We don't have.
so many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of
Yes.
notes. And I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites or you want to be Jews? Do you want to remain ancient Israelites or you want to be Jews?
The entire Bible is about black people. Not only was Jesus black, but every character in the Bible seems to be black too. Yeah, Zephaniah and Jeremiah and Jebediah, those all aren't white people names, okay? And Jesus wasn't some tan, partially melanated Middle Eastern person either. I'm talking straight up black dude, okay? Even in the book of Revelation, when you get the vision of Daniel, he's describing someone with feet like burnt brass and white woolly hair, and we've got the deep running water voice with the red eyes, and you guys, he's black. The Jewish people are black people, like Kanye was right.
Hitler was, and the Nazis, of course, expanded on Margaret Sanger's approach to eugenics, right? Eugenics was a movement that was born in the United States under hard doctrines of racism with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them. With the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them.
With the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them.
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community. Black Lives Matter starts there. I had last week sit-down dinner in my house with 40 people, which are considered the leadership of the black community.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
This story begins in October 1949, 1 year after Israel's formation. This is when Netanyahu was born, the second child of a historian. His paternal grandfather was a rabbi and a Zionist writer. His name was Nathan Milikowski. Later in life, he Hebraized his surname from Milikowski to Netanyahu, a name which means God has given.
This is Yair Netanyahu's DNA test that has been leaked. You can see right there his Y DNA is RM198. Descendants of RM198 come from Poland, Russia, Germany, and other European countries. Does this look Semitic to you? Does this look Middle Eastern?
Today, it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews?
So we're supposed to we're just being told that anti-Semitism is now criticizing Israel. Anti-Semitism is anything they want it to be. They can't even define it. They admit in this bill that they've passed through the House that there's really truly no actual protection for Jews, but they're just making it up as they go because they want to say, well, but Semites, which we shouldn't even be using that word anymore because most Jews who practice the religion of Judaism or who are culturally Jewish, even if they don't practice the Jewish religion, but they're culturally Jewish, like many are culturally Christian. Many of us celebrate Christmas, but we're not Christian. That's cultural Christianity. It is what it is, right? They can't define it. They're putting all these rules on us. We shouldn't even allow them to use the term anti-Semitism. It's not real. Most of these Jews are not Semites.
You can convert to Judaism. You can't convert to a blood family. You cannot convert to a race. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is.
Judaism is a religion. That's all it is.
I was told welcome home because I'm Jewish. Every single person who's Jewish that steps off the plane, especially for their first time in Israel, is told welcome home. Let's just sit with that for a second. This right here, this is my actual ancestry. I am 88% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none of my ancestors are from the Middle East.
And here's what I would like to say to you, Rabbi, since you're quoting scripture, okay? The one that's relevant to me is woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. And if you'd like to dive into a little more scripture, I think what's relevant is Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie.
Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie.
And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley.
And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley.
The fact that you would try to say, I am Jewish, and this is what I believe, and do and say the things that you are doing. People can see and hear evil, and what you are doing right now is an act of evil. The lies that you are telling, not just on me, but also on my family members, are a good example for the world to see what we are referring to when we call something radical Zionism.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
I want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Let me adjust my mic here. Excuse the lighting here. I could not find my remote for my other lights here, so I'm using my night light that's on my desk here. But I hope and pray that you guys had a blessed Shabbat. We have a lot to cover tonight, and I know that this is one of those topics that a lot will run with in terms of whenever there's a what appears to be a significant event. So tonight we're going to deal with World War III. The topic is World War III coming. Is it really coming? Is it really here? So we have a lot to unpack here because, again, there's a number of people that are teaching or have taught, that, far as prophecies, according to the scriptures, to be anticipating on World War III. And I want to make sure you guys understand this is nothing new in terms of the speculations of World War III. If you study history, you'll see that the first mentions of World War III occurred with the Cuban situation. And if you go a little bit beyond that, but really it's the Cuban situation with the Soviet Union having what was trying to establish Cuba as being one of its satellite territories and had nuclear weapons there. So that really triggered a standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. And so there was an anticipation for, a World War III per se. Then when you also understand, again, there was also the arms race that was going back and forth between the United States and the Soviet Union. So speculations of World War III is nothing new. Whenever something happens, you guys probably notice you'll have the prophets and the prophetess, and you have so many that will all of a sudden come out and start talking about World War III, and many of them sound like doom and gloom. sound really doom and gloom. And I'm here to tell you that's not a prophet. Prophecy is not doom and gloom. The Most High, whenever he used a prophet to bring forth prophecy to Israel, they had an option to correct whatever issues that the prophet had to highlight or address. They had options. And the Most High has a plan for his people. So this is not doom and gloom, like many would kind of put out there when they really dealing with the end time prophecy, so to speak. So my goal today here is to give you clarity and really allow you guys to kind of, dive into it. When I say I was a end time prophecy geek, I literally was an end time prophecy geek. And so I'm going to share with you guys certain angles of how, I and so many that was part of the end time prophecy community, view things, so we're going to take a walk here. And if I have enough time, I'll add a few additional things here, like dealing with, I touched on it last night, these pseudo books like the Book of Jasher, and things like that, because I know that whenever I bring that up, you have people that want to be comment section scholars and don't watch the video and begin to make all kinds of comments and posting comments that shows that they're completely clueless. They just saw the title and decided to post comments and not even really listening to the video. So, but anyway, family, let's go ahead and get into it. Again, today's lesson is the end, World War III, end time prophecy. Are we really preparing for World War III? Is this the battle of all battles, the wars of all wars, the battle of Armageddon? Is this the thing that many have prophesied about, or reviewing the scriptures and review the scriptures from a certain lens when we start getting into eschatology? And that's one of the points I want to make too. There's so many different eschatologies. There's not one set eschatology. You got Islam has eschatology. In other words, the way they see end times. You have the people in the church, different variants within the church, different variants within Catholicism, different variants of eschatology among the Jewish community, as we know those guys. You have end time prophecy, eschatology. So there's no canned, one that just kind of is the monopoly, so to speak, or the one that just that's the dominant one, or you just don't have a single one, because when people mention eschatology, they don't explain that there's so many different, so many different eschatologies that exist, just like theology. There's so many different theologies, study of the Most High, that are out there. So with that being said, let me go ahead and stretch this screen out. And I just wanted to also say this as a disclaimer, or not necessarily a disclaimer, but for those that, if you guys are subscribed to the channel, double check to make sure that you are still subscribed to the channel, because YouTube has been unsubscribing subscribers just to kind of keep the numbers down. So if you are subscribed to the channel, or believe that you are still subscribed to the channel, double check to make sure that you are still subscribed. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that like button. All right. Subscribe as well. And it doesn't cost you anything for subscribing, or should I say, clicking that like button. And one last thing I want to point out, even after the video is over, feel free to post comments inside the comment section. That does a lot with helping the impressions of the video in terms of how Google, YouTube rather, the algorithms and so forth. All right. So let's go ahead and get into a family. So we're going to deal with the end of the world, the end of the world. That is a question that that's been asked, a number of times. We can make sure that, we can identify this inside the scripture. Christ had to deal with this a number of times within the text. We see Paul had to deal with it a number of times. Many of the disciples had to deal with this question. When you read the law and the prophets, you see the prophets dealing with this. You see end time prophecy. Many want to know, when is the end of the world? What's going to happen? Is there an ultimate judgment that's going to take place? And you'll see in many other cultures and many other religions, they have eschatology. They have a form of eschatology, how they view the end times. You know, when you study the Mayans, you know, I remember, I believe it's the Mayans when with the caves, or should I say, I believe it's the cave, when they showed how they were, they had 3 lines, started out as 2 lines, and then one of the lines split, and that was supposed to show prophecies of potentially the end of the world, how man walked with the Most High, and then how man began to separate from, and they're referring to their God, so to speak, and then how there was an ultimate judgment to restore order. So you'll see this is not something that's unique to the Israelites. End time discussions, you know, have been going on for a very long time, and we can see so many that are, you know, that really don't understand that, you know, point that I made. All right. But anyway, let's go to get into it, family. We got a lot to cover. Let's see here. So again, let's start with getting clarity on end time prophecy. Some of the geeks, the end time prophecy geeks, when I used to be in that group, you know, let me just show you some of the methodology and the logic behind many of the approaches to the text. All right. So are we headed for World War II? I mean, or should I say World War III? Excuse me. Are we headed for World War III? Now, you guys know, like, how I like to do it. I like to have some interaction here. So I'm going to put this question inside the comment section, and feel free, guys, to share your thoughts. So let me go ahead and add this here. Let's see. Are we headed for World War III? And I'm going to put an additional option. All right. Okay. All righty. So right now we have over, on my end, I'm seeing that we have over 600 in the building. So let's get those thumbs up. Right now we're sitting on 55 likes. So with almost 700 people in the building, we should be at least 300 likes. Doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that like button. All right. So the question is, are we headed for World War III? Are we headed for World War III? Right now I see 38 votes. And so far, looking here, 68% says yes, 18% says no, 14% says not sure, and that's based off of 64 votes. So let's see if we can get at least 100 votes, so that way we can get a good sample size of what you guys are thinking. But again, right now at 93 votes, we just bumped up here. Right now we have 73%. Right, we just hit 100. So we have 73%, almost right now, 74% of you guys say yes, 14% says no, and 13% says not sure. All right, but the majority of you guys says yes. We can round that off into saying 75% of you guys believe that we are headed for World War III. All right, and I'm going to leave the poll open, and I'll post periodically throughout the live your responses, you know, to the polls, and also we'll do shout outs as well. All right. So if you vote, also in the chat, you can type in 1 if you believe that we are. You could type 2 if you say no. And then as we progress, I will give you guys some shout outs by recognizing your responses as well. All right. So let's go ahead and delve into this. Let's dive into this rather. Are we headed to World War III? Are we headed to World War III? Are we headed to World War III? Now, I want to start with this article here because this is what triggered a lot of responses. All right. This is what triggered a lot of the thoughts. And let me go ahead and just start right now. I see some responses here. Let me just give some shout outs real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes here. I want to give shout outs to Jay Smooth, who says no. Let's see here. We see Born Uhuru, excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Uhuru says no. And feel free to send me an email or type it inside the chat on the proper pronunciation of your word. Of your name. Forgive me if I mispronounced it. Charge it to my head, not to my heart, but I appreciate the comments. He says no. Tanya says no. He says yes. Fatima says yes. Let's see here. Shout outs to Diana Pillow says yes. Let's see here. Ria, excuse me, says no. Space Ghost Coast to Coast says World War IV. I Am Chosen says yes. Let's see here. LaRonda says no. Mother Green Earth says yes. Diana Gardner says yes. Sister E, the troublemaker, who is in the chat. Shout outs to Sister E. Family, show some love to Sister E, holding it down up in New York. She's a Memphis, Tennessee person up in New York. Now she is officially a New Yorker. She stores her frying pans and her pots and pans in the bottom of the oven. So she's officially a New Yorker. Hallelujah. That's an inside joke right there. That for some of you guys is from up that way, you guys know what I'm talking about. The oven, that was another place to store your pots and your pans. So she's officially a New Yorker. Shout outs to you, Sister E. Also, and she says yes. Berean Scholar, he says no. And also going back to Sister E, feel free to drop your link inside the comment section. Subscribe to her channel. She has a channel doing a lot of things on there. So subscribe to her channel. Also, Berean Scholar, he says no. And he has a great channel as well. He's putting a lot of effort to get information out to you guys. So subscribe to his channel as well. Berean Scholar, feel free to drop your the link to your page, your YouTube channel inside the comment section. All right. Sister Yvette Rivera, excuse me. She says no. But Sister Nora Bain up in holding things down in Pennsylvania. She says it's inevitable. All right. I am intentional. Says yes. Into focus. Says no, but says World War IV. Brother Bruce says yes. Zara says no. Pink Blue. Yes. Let's see here. Yaya. Yes. I'm just going right down the list. Already begun. Space Ghost. Coast to Coast. Man, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Space Ghost. Hanna-Barbera. Old cartoon. If you grew up in the 70s and 80s, you guys know what that is. Anyway, Daily Bread. Yes. Stacy Pullum. No. Let's see here. Linwood Collins. Been there. Pieces of Me. Yes. Raw Will. Yes. Yaquaba, which transliterates to Jacob. Yes. Let's see here. Cedric Lewis, I'm excited that you are covering this topic tonight. I was wondering if we are not in Jacob's trouble yet. What period are we in? Shout outs to you. Really appreciate it. Lakenia, not sure. Let's see here. A few more, then we get started. Remember the Freemason Albert Pike letter. We'll deal with Albert Pike. Got a video that I'm working on, the documentary. Going to drop some serious information. Anyway, appreciate you. Let's see here. Bithaya, get family, show some love to the elder. She is in the building holding things down in California. She says eventually yes. All right, a couple of more, then we'll get started. Can't get to everyone because the chat is really building up and it's starting to pick up here. Brother Charles says yes. And one more. Let's see here. Dean Dina Yah says yes. I think you already voted, but anyway. Blackjack says no. All right, family, let's go into it. And I'm gonna present some information to you guys, and feel free to share your thoughts. Feel free to post comments in the comment section. Moderators, you guys know what to do. Let's stay on topic. Let's not take the discussion way out in left field. All right. And moderators, you know what to do with your trolls. And I will say here to the trolls, keep trolling. All right. So let me take one more look at the poll here before we get started. We are at 232. And so far, the numbers are staying pretty much where it is as far as the percentages. We had 71% that says yes, as far as headed to World War III. 15% says no, and 14% says not sure. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get into it. All right. Let's get into it. Let's start with this article here. And I'm sure you guys have seen the news, and I want to bring you guys up to speed for those that may not be aware. You guys know who these guys are: the president of the Ukraine, and this is president of Russia, which they all are family members. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's start with this article here, and this will help bring you guys up to speed with what's going on. Shout outs to my buddy Jay Highstyle, who is in the building. All right, USA Today: Putin. Ukraine long-range missiles, and why there's talk about World War III. This article is dated November 21st, 2024. All right. So this is the article. This is just a few highlights from the article, and I'll drop this article in the comment section as we continue for you guys to just at your leisure, if you want to get caught up with it, read the entire article. All right. And I tell you, USA Today, their website changed tremendously, man. They got advertisements on everything, right? But anyway, again, Putin, Ukraine, long-range missiles, and why there's talk about World War III. Some of us have been talking about the possibility of World War III. And some of us in this context mainly means political figures who've been using the dark, saber-rattling language amid a potential shift in U.S. policy on Russia and Ukraine, and on the war between Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah. In recent days, there's also been some real changes to President Joe Biden's Ukraine policy, which has amplified those perennial discussions about another world war. But here's why there's talk about World War III. And when you in family, pay attention to these nominees, these people that Trump is placing inside his cabinet. And when you really think about it, I mean, many of them are, pretty big on war. Pretty big on war. All right. But anyway, Trump and his allies keep mentioning it. Biden too, though less often. In his first term as as president, U.S. and foreign officials and political scientists expressed private and public concerns that Trump considered at the time an inexperienced and mercurial leader would inadvertently start World War III with Iran, China, North Korea, or some other American adversary that is either nuclear, armed, or soon to be. On the campaign trail and since his election victory, it's been Trump and his allies who have sometimes played fast and loose with evoking the specter of World War III by using such language. So let's go to another article here, family. This is Politico. World War III has officially begun. Ukraine's ex-top general says November 21st, 2024. All right. And it reads, World War III has officially begun. Ukraine's ex-top general. And it's interesting when you really start, diving into this history. And as I expressed on my last live, you'll see that Ukraine, this has always been a center of resources or needing, I would say, United States and other countries to intercede for them, so to speak, man. When you understand, one of the articles I shared from the New York Times was the Jewish community in Ukraine. They were asking for, I think it was at the time, either $1 million or $1 billion for assistance. And they said that there was 6 million Jews that are in peril. And I believe they said that over 100,000 have been displaced. I mean, they was using the term 6 million 30 years prior to the Holocaust. All right. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick, and I'll add this at the to this article, the source that I'm making reference to. Let me just go to add that real quick since I brought it up, so that way I'm giving you guys accurate information. I'm not misspeaking here. All right, which one is that? Let's see. Bear with me 1 second. All right, where is it? Where is it? All right, I think it's this one right here. Yeah, it's the Mystical Scrolls. Let me pull this up real quick, and I'm going to show you. Let me show you a couple of old news articles about Ukraine. All right. I'm just getting to the articles. Is this the one? All right. All right. This is one of the articles. All right. Yeah, this is one of the articles. Let me copy this over. I'm just going to copy one of the articles, not going to try to redo or reteach what's already been taught. Let me go ahead and copy this over real quick, so that way you guys can follow along. All right, there we go. There we go. All right. Let me switch gears. Let me get back to here. One last thing. Let me make sure I cover. Let me clear this slide up. All right. Where is the, all right, there we go. All right, there we go. All right. All right, let's get back to the slides. All right, so this is Politico. It says World War III has officially begun. Ukraine's ex-top general says the former commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian army has a grim outlook on the state of the war. Ukraine's former military commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzny, excuse me if I butcher his name, said that the direct involvement of Russia's autocratic allies in its war on Ukraine means that World War III has started. And this just sound like just a beacon, to try to gain more attention and support. That's what this sounds like. All right, similar to the playbook that tend to happen, and I'm going to show you this or this article after this one, showing that they were letting out the same beacon, asking for help back in 1919. I believe, I believe it was November 1919, but we'll confirm. But nevertheless, it goes on to say, I believe that in 2024, we can absolutely believe that the Third World War has begun, said Zaluzny, who is now Ukraine's envoy to the United Kingdom, during a speech at Ukrainska Pravdas, excuse me if I butcher these words, UP 100 award ceremony, because in 2024, Ukraine is no longer facing Russia. Soldiers from North Korea are standing in front of Ukraine. Let's be honest, already in Ukraine, the Iranian Shahedas, all right, are killing civilians. So this is key right here. According to this article, and I did see some other articles and saw some news in the past, over the past couple of weeks about Russia or Northern Korea sending soldiers over to Russia. All right. And Russia is, getting cash strung on this whole ordeal with Ukraine. I mean, because this has been going on for almost 3 years, and Ukraine has received a ton of money from the United States, billions upon billions of dollars. But this, according to the Russian military might, they should have already squashed this whole situation. They should have, being that they have the military power, so to speak, they should have already conquered this. This should have been something that lasted maybe 30 days, according to how many believe Russia has, as far as their military arsenal, their technology. This large country fighting this small country, which is still like a sister state. But you would think that they would have conquered them by now. They would have achieved what they set out to achieve, but that's not the case. So this gives you a glimpse of just how, if you want to see whether, if you believe that Russia's army is very powerful, or whatever the case may be, this should give you a glimpse into that. They struggling against Ukraine, even though Ukraine is getting support from the United States, but they are struggling. So again, because in 2024, Ukraine is no longer facing Russia, soldiers from North Korea are standing in front of Ukraine. Let's be honest, already in Ukraine, the Iranian, I'm not going to butcher this, are killing civilians. All right. It goes on to say, absolutely open, without any shame, said Zaluzny or Zaluzny, adding that North Korean and China weapons are flying into Ukraine. All right. It goes on to say, Zaluzny urged Ukraine's allies to draw the right conclusions. It is still possible to stop it here on the territory of Ukraine, but for some reason, our partners do not want to understand this. It is obvious that Ukraine already has too many enemies. Ukraine will survive with technology, but it is not clear whether it can win this battle alone, he said. So this is giving you an idea what's going on over there with the Ukraine, Russia, and why the speculations that this is turning into possibly World War III. All right. So let me highlight another situation that occurred with Ukraine. Actually, to this day, it's like over 100 years to today, about 106 years, 5 years today. Right. Ukrainian Jews aim to stop pogroms. New York Times, September 8th, 1919, year red summer. And this is the article. September 8th, 1919, this is it says Ukrainian Jews aim to stop pogroms, commissioned to visit Europe and prepare a memorandum for President Wilson. Lansing gives permission, mass meeting hears that 127,000 Jews have been killed and 6 million are in peril. And this is the actual article. This is the actual article that you could download from the archives of the New York Times. And you see again, mass meeting hears that 127,000 Jews have been killed and 6 million are in peril. So did the scriptures actually prophesy World War III? Did the scriptures or do they actually prophesy World War III? I'm going to go ahead and put this question. Let me see where we are. I'm going to put this question over into the chat for you guys. Really appreciate the participation. I'm going to close this one out. Let me ask another question. Let me put this question inside the chat. And this question is, let's see, actually, all right, I'm going to ask this question. Does the scriptures actually prophesy World War III? All right. And I'm going to post this here. Let's start the poll. Here's another one here. All right. For your interactions. All right. So let's go ahead and continue. All right. Let's see if the scriptures actually prophesy World War III. Let's see if it really prophesies World War III. What biblical text end time prophecy enthusiasts use to support World War III predictions? I'll ask this question again. What biblical text end time prophecy enthusiasts use to support World War III predictions? Let's go to Revelation chapter 8, verse 8 and 9. This is one of the scriptures, and actually I would say this chapter is the chapter that many would use to say that Revelation chapter 8 is prophesying multiple world wars. All right, let's go ahead and read. Let's see what it says. And the second angel sounded. So I'm going to deal with these trumpets. I'm going to deal with the second trumpet first, and then we'll deal with the first trumpet, because I want to kind of give you some information, detailed information, so you guys can walk with me with this to see how end time prophecy enthusiasts drew the conclusion that these two trumpets are referring to World War I, World War II, and another for World War III. So this is verse 8. It says, and the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. So let me give you a little history on World War II, right? The second trumpet, according to most end time enthusiasts, refer to World War II. So between just little history on World War II, between 25,000 to 30,000 Allied forces, ships, in other words, military, merchant, and auxiliary combined. So it's saying between 25,000 to 30,000 ships were used, right? And 10 to 12,000 Axis forces, ships, in other words, military and merchants combined, which a grand total of 35,000 to 42,000 ships participated in World War II across all types and nations. So the scripture says that a third part of the ships are destroyed. The fulfillment of this prophecy is believed to most likely happen during a time of war. All right. So just giving you guys a picture, just letting you delve into the minds and thoughts of end time prophecy. I would say geeks. So this is a key quote that many will use this to connect it to World War II. As it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And this is how it's interpreted. Like an atomic bomb, an atomic mushroom cloud that looks like a huge mountain, which can be comparable to what John saw. So John is describing events that he never seen in his lifetime. Let me say that again. John is describing events that he had never seen in his lifetime. World War II was the most massive war the world has ever seen. Approximately 52 million people died in that war. So I'm just giving you history that excluding our people. So I'm going there for a reason. I'm going here for a reason. This is not including the atrocities that our people had to deal with. So when we dealing with these prophecies, this is not dealing with Israel, the true Israelites. This is not dealing with us. And that's where the prophecies, I have a problem with many that are trying to teach end time prophecy, because their starting point is to start with the other nations versus starting directly with Israel. And I can guarantee you that if they started with their own people, the Israelites, the ancient Israelites, applied the prophecies to our people properly, the things that we had to go through, you'll see that things are a lot different. You'll see that we were a lot further along in the prophecy as what many believe. But anyway, John is describing events, just so that way you guys can understand. John is describing events that he had never seen in his lifetime. World War II was the most massive war the world has ever seen. Approximately 52 million people died in that war. So let's go to Revelation chapter 8, verse 7, all right, to kind of bring this home. And the seven angels which had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound, right? The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass were burnt up. So now we're dealing with the first trumpet. The second trumpet, we dealt with that one first because I want to highlight a couple of things. So the first trumpet is the second trumpet supposedly is World War II. The first trumpet is supposedly World War I. And I can understand when you're looking at the events and you see some things that pop out that may be in relation to the scriptures. All right. But anyway, during World War I, for the first time in history, airplanes were used in combat on a limited scale. In addition, large, powerful guns were used in warfare for the first time. This verse says that hail and fire mingled with blood was cast upon the earth. This could be describing bomb or shellings such as the world had never seen before. Now, I'm just giving you some end time prophecy, geeked out information, right? Just so that way you can understand some of the things that many are teaching in terms with their prophecy. And this angle is strictly dealing with it from a Eurocentric perspective of the text. Anyway, nearly all of World War I was fought within a 40-mile wide area in a region separating France from Germany. The entire area was decimated. So during World War I, approximately 8.3 million soldiers died, most of them right in that area. So what about World War III? What about World War III? That's what we have to answer. We have to get to World War III. Where does this fit in this discussion? What is the big deal about World War III? And shout outs to you guys. Really appreciate the love and support. We have over 100 participants here. 61% says that the scripture do actually prophesy World War III. 15% says no. 25% says not sure. All right. So let me continue here. So what about World War III? 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 The anticipation and prophecies about World War III began with the arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union. Let me say that again. The anticipation and prophecies about World War III began with the arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union. See, the arms race set the stage for Cold War hostility. The Cuban Missile Crisis is considered the first clear and imminent threat of World War III, as it brought these superpowers to the brink of nuclear war. And John F. Kennedy was in office at that time. So again, the arms race set the stage for Cold War hostility. The Cuban Missile Crisis is considered the first clear and imminent threat of World War III, as it brought the superpowers to the brink of nuclear war. So, what is possibly the third trumpet? What is the third trumpet? Let's go to Revelations again, chapter 8, and we're going to start at verse 10. Let's deal with the third trumpet. Let's see what it says. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of the water. Verse 11, and the name of the star is called wormwood, Lana or La'ana, and the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. So the Russian word for wormwood, La'ana, is Chernobyl. See, this is, and again, I'm going geeked out with you guys from an end-time prophecy perspective. And this is, back in the day, this was my angle when I was strictly looking at things from a Eurocentric perspective, through a Eurocentric lens. So the Russian word for wormwood is Chernobyl. The Russian people took wormwood for medicinal purposes, and it would turn their tongues black. The Russian word for black is Chernon, which led them to call wormwood Chernobyl. So this is coming from the Time, this article here, Time Turns 90. All of you need to know about modern history in 90 cover stories. 1986 Chernobyl reactor, February 26, 2013. All right, that's when they had an issue with the reactor. That's when they had one of the issues with the reactor and nuclear steam, because the reactor, they had like a meltdown. And I mean, it literally put so much, radiation into the air, into the whole territory, that they literally had to evacuate that area. It's a huge area. All right. So this is going to give you more information on that. So for the Soviet Union, the consequences of Chernobyl could be devastating. Anywhere from 2 to 2,000 people near the plant were reported to have been killed by causes ranging from the initial blast of lethal radiation, and tens of thousands may have been evacuated from the endangered region. Meanwhile, radioactive gases and particles have spread over a vast section of the Soviet breadbasket and the Ukraine. And water supplies for more than 6 million inhabitants of the Kyiv area are threatened with contamination. Milk from local cows will probably be tainted for months to come. So when did it happen? When Mikhail Gorbachev became the head of the Soviet Union, scientists at the unit for nuclear power plants in Chernobyl decided that they would conduct a series of experiments. They disabled some of the key safety mechanisms that were in place. Suddenly, everything began to react. And in 36 seconds, they had a full nuclear meltdown. The first explosion was so powerful that it blew 2 million pounds of cement, 2 million pound cement lid into the sky. Can you imagine that? 2 million pound cement lid being blown into the sky like one of those manhole covers. 2 million pound cement lid. Says the first explosion was so powerful that it blew a 2 million pound cement lid into the sky. This left the atmosphere fully exposed to nuclear fallout for the next 3 weeks. Radiation was thrown into the atmosphere for 1 mile. Winds blew it into Switzerland, Italy, Great Britain, and Germany. Eventually, it even reached the shores of America. So after the Chernobyl explosion, it rained incessantly, and the rain brought the radioactive material down into the soil and rivers, which then caused it to flow through Europe. Everyone who drank the water was infected. Everyone who ate the food touched by the water was infected. In Europe, over 1 million reindeers being raised domestically for food had to be killed. They killed tens of thousands of rabbits. 37 million acres, or an area the size of Connecticut, around the Chernobyl plant became a wasteland and had to be totally abandoned. Let me say that again. 37 million acres, or an area the size of Connecticut, around the Chernobyl plant became a wasteland and had to be totally abandoned. But what's interesting here, because when I was in the military, right, we had to stay up to speed with the melanin conferences. I'm not sure if they still do it today, but they actually had melanin conferences. And one of the things that came out of Chernobyl, the studies of Chernobyl, was the plants, right? Or any animals or plants that had melanin, especially the plants, were able to take the radiation and convert it to food. And learning about the importance of melanin can do that. A high concentration of melanin, right? That can allow conversion of radiation into food. Now, I'm not saying that if a bomb was dropped right now, none of our people would be affected, but we have a higher probability to survive it than any other group of people. In other words, dark melanated people that have melanin in their skin, a heavy dose of it, because we have a heavy dose of it. But guess what? When you get closer to the equator, they have more, but will have a higher percentage, a higher chance of surviving this. Now, you guys hear it like when they say the only two things that's guaranteed to survive of nuclear fallout is rats and roaches and ants. But what they won't tell you is a remnant of dark melanated people. Do your research on melanin. Do your research on melanin. Do your research on this area. Again, that was one of the things that really caught them by surprise, was how the plants that have heavy melanin within it, they were able to convert that radiation to food. All right. So over 2 million people have become infected, and scientists says the worst is yet to come with that whole area. So the amount of radiation released in Chernobyl was 10 times greater than that released in the bombing of Hiroshima in World War II. So are there any other military campaigns that many end-time prophecy enthusiasts believe to be World War III? Because remember what I said, family, since the whole arms race in the Cuban crisis, there's been a number of discussions with World War III. If you just do your research, you'll see this is not this is not uncommon. The speaking or the mention of World War III. Just want to make sure you guys understand that. Okay. Are there any other military campaigns that many end-time prophecy enthusiasts believe to be World War III? Before we go to here and answer this question, let me give a special shout out. I see we have a super chat here, so let me give a shout out before we continue. Larina, want to say thank you for the super chat. Family, let's show Larina love. Thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate the contributions tonight. Thank you again, family. Show some love for Larina. Really thank you again for the love and support. All right, let me take a quick look at this. The poll. Do the scriptures actually prophesy World War III? 59% says yes, 14% says no, and 27% says not sure. Okay. All right. So Revelation, let's get back to it. Revelation chapter 9, verses 1 and 2. It reads, And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Now, this is where you really get into understanding the third of heaven, Hasatan being cast down, and the third of heaven being cast down with him. Okay. But nevertheless, the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. The key to the bottomless pit. Verse 2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. All right, so initially, and I've taught this in the past, right? Initially, I thought that this was dealing with Saddam Hussein, right? And I'm going to show you why. When Saddam Hussein invaded the little country of Kuwait in 1990, now I went to Kuwait. I've been to Kuwait. I can tell you, I've been in Kuwait. I was in Dhahran. Okay, my dorm got blown up, literally. My dorm got blown up. But anyway, Saddam Hussein invaded the little county of Kuwait in 1990. He set 70 of their oil wells on fire. Let me say that again. When Saddam Hussein invaded the little country of Kuwait in 1990, he set 70 of their oil wells on fire. For months, the sun was not seen. The skies over Kuwait looked totally black at noontime. Some described this area as a hellish sight, and they expected demons to come out of the smoke at any time. Let me say that again. Some describe this area as a hellish sight, and they expected demons to come out of the smoke at any time. That's how bad it looked, which leads me to verse 7 in chapter 9 of Revelation. The shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared into battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns of gold, like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. So this made me think about the Apache helicopters. You know, so the logic is, and just remember that John had never seen a helicopter, and yet it, it can be easily, excuse me, the misspelling here. It can easily be assumed that he is attempting to describe one. The flying locusts may have men faces, right? Men, the faces of men. Let me say that again. The flying locusts have the faces of men. I'm just butchering my own notes here, right? Let me read this again. So the logic is that John had never seen a helicopter, and yet it can easily be assumed that he is attempting to describe one. The flying locusts that have men, the faces of men, right? Then we'll go to verse 10 and 11. Let's read verse 10 and 11 and see some additional things that it says about this particular prophecy that many have taken, including myself, when I was an end time prophecy geek, right? That this is referring to the Iraq war, right? Desert Storm. So, and they had tails like unto scorpions, and they were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. All right, so the entire Gulf War invasion lasted for approximately 5 to 7 months. The Bible says that the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. So imagine the sounds of a fleet of helicopters coming out of the smoke. Initially, and this is where I want to get to my point, right? Initially, I thought the fifth trumpet was referring to the Gulf War. Initially, everything that I share with you about Revelation chapter 8, Revelation chapter 9, I viewed it from a Eurocentric perspective. Just, all of us been in the church. All of us been in the church. Slow down, y'all die, right? Listen to what I'm saying. Don't shoot the gun. Wrong interpretations, my brother. Well, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Matter of fact, see, this is where you have people, right, that want to take this pompous approach. I'm just going to block this person, because I'm sharing, and then this person want to make it, want to kind of belittle me and others as if they know it all. And they don't. And I can tell you, this person that's in the comment section is clueless about what I just pointed out. This person is clueless. As I stated in this presentation, initially, that's what I thought it was. That I have no problem with saying that I am wrong. But unfortunately, we have armchair people like this individual that want to make it seem like they know what it is. I can guarantee you that person don't. If I opened up the call for him to jump on, he wouldn't jump on. If I opened up this lesson to do that. So family, I'm making it clear. When I started with this prophecy, because I've been teaching end time prophecy for a long time. And if you really want to build up a channel, if I want to build up We Woke now, right now, I know for sure if I was teaching my end time prophecy the way that I laid it out here and been laying it out in the past, I can easily have this channel a couple of 100,000 easily, because that is itching ears. That's what people want to hear. They want to have the question to what's going to happen. It's easy to teach end time prophecy. It really is, because people have an itching ear to want to know what's going to happen in the end. So again, for me, as I laid out my end time prophecy approach to this and the things that I thought and how I interpreted the prophecies. See, initially I thought the fifth trumpet was referring to the Gulf War, but I was completely wrong. I believe I was completely wrong, even with the other prophecies, because again, when you come up in the church, you're going to automatically view prophecies from a Eurocentric perspective. Christianity, when you understand Christianity, you are understanding or getting your understanding of the text, right, from a Eurocentric perspective. This is why you have Calvinists and all kinds of different denominations. All of those are Europeans. Let me say that again. All those are European interpretations of the ancient text that never belonged to them. So when you start getting into that, right, these different denominations, then you're going to get into what is called eschatology, because different denominations within Christianity have different variations of eschatology. But the key is you're going to interpret the scripture from a Eurocentric perspective. In other words, you're going to start with the oppressors versus starting with the Israelites. Every prophecy that we see in the scriptures is not about the other nations. It's about Israel. From the very first chapter of Genesis all the way to the last chapter of Revelation, depending on if we have in the building, most of you guys, I believe, are messianic. We have some non-messianic, so they don't believe in Christ and they don't believe in the renewed covenant. But nevertheless, starting from the very first chapter, the entire book is about Israel, how the Most High created the covenant and how the covenant went from Adam and transitioned all the way down to Israel. Not multiple covenants as systematic theology would teach you. No, according to scripture, how the covenant started off with Adam and how it made its way all the way down to Israel. So when we read the scripture, it is about Israel. So when we dealing with the prophecies, you have to start with Israel. When Jeremiah and all those prophets gave their prophecies about Israel, it started with Israel, not the other nations. Let me say that again. Every prophecy that Israel had to receive from the prophets, it starts with Israel. What Israel did wrong by breaking the law, statutes, and commandments, and what the Most High was going to do to correct them and bring them back to the place where they need to be. Anyway, so I believe that the prophecies, right? I'm making it clear for me. I believe the prophecy, as well as some of the other prophecies, we are dealing with the transatlantic world war, the atrocities that begin that our people, the true Israelites, had to deal with. And this is the problem that I see with end time prophets or people that are teaching end time prophecy. When I hear them make comments about World War III, I can tell you that most don't understand and that they're truly looking at things from a Eurocentric lens. So I believe the prophecy predicted the transatlantic world war. Now, ultimately, when we read the book of Ezekiel, we know that there's going to be a standoff between Gog, Magog. We understand this, so I'm not tossing that aside. But I really want to make sure you guys understand everything, even the battle of Gog and Magog. It had everything to do with who? The Israelites. The Israelites. So I believe the prophecy predicted the transatlantic world war. And notice what I've said here. You guys heard me say this. I've been referring to this for years. We need to stop saying slave trade. This wasn't a slave trade. This was a world war. This was a world war, family. But notice how our atrocities, they put words on it to minimize what happened to us. But when things happen to other communities, that's not even a fraction of what happened to our people, then they put labels on it so that way we can be reminded of what happened to them. When actually we need to start with our own community before we start focusing on other communities. So I believe this prophecy again predicted the transatlantic world war. So what qualifies a war campaign to be declared a world war? Let me say this again. What qualifies a war campaign to be declared a world war? That's the key, family. And I'm going to prove to you that the transatlantic slave trade was a world war with a document that I use all the time. What defines a world war? Let's see what we get here. Right? World war. This is coming from the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. It says here, a war engaged by all or most of the principal nations of the world. That's key. A war engaged in by all or most of the principal nations of the world, especially war, either of two such wars of the first half of the 20th century. So again, this is key. A war engaged in by all or most of the principal nations of the world, especially world war, either of two such wars of the first half of the 20th century. And before I get to this point that I'm going to make about the transatlantic world war, but let me make this key point about the fifth trumpet. Let me make this key point. The demonic locusts, right? The demonic locusts are like horses prepared for battle, posed and ready to attack. This could also mean that they will be larger than the average size locust. These demonic locusts will have heads that look like they are crowned with gold. This symbolizes that they will have authority to afflict men. They will have they will be as conquerors and be successful in their attacks. These demonic locusts will appear to have the faces of men. This symbolizes the determination and intelligence of men. They will be set up like flint in their attacks and have the intelligence to attack and inflict damage with their scorpion poison, with scorpion-like poison. I'm going somewhere with this, family. These demonic locusts will have hair like like hair of women, beauty to seduce and ensnare, to help them seem innocent and harmless at first. This may mean long attendance to help them in their attack and escape. Look at this here. So the demonic locust will have teeth as a lion. In other words, ferocious, fierce, devouring, and cruel. This beast will have breastplates of as of iron, will appear to be indestructible, protected, and defended. People will be hopeless in killing them. They will have wings that sound like many chariots rushing into battle, frightening and overwhelming. There will be a sense of hopelessness in defending against them. And then when we deal with the 8th point here, this demonic locust will have stinging tails like scorpions, right? Demonic torture. So let's confirm this prophecy. See, family, what I read to you, that describes an invasion of Africa. That's an invasion. That's the European invasion. See, most of you guys don't even understand, man, the entire continent of Africa was divided between the Brits, Spain, the French. They divided that entire country, the entire continent, rather. And this is why so many miss it. This is why it makes me cringe when I hear people say, flee to Africa, free to Africa, free to Africa. Africa is the answer. Do you know that Africa is still under over 14 countries are still giving slave taxes to the French right now? Do you know that you have all these different nations like Putin, like China, these different countries are hustling our brothers and sisters over there? Our brothers and many of those nations are so deep into debt because what's happening to many of those countries, many of those nations, they'll take out loans. They will give loans. Let's just say to China. China owns so much. They'll give loans to China, give them loans. And instead of them taking those loans and doing what they should, you have these, with many of these nations, you will have these coups, and they will overthrow the government. And guess what? Take hold of that money and not use it for what it should have been intended to use. There are predatory loans that many countries have given to where so now many countries, I remember, I think it was Uganda, where they, I believe it's their airport is either Uganda. I believe it's Uganda. Either it's their airport or their electrical, their power company now is owned by China because they defaulted on their loan. They defaulted on their loan. I think it was like $30 million. An NBA player can, pay that out of their pocket. So, family, the point that I'm making is Babylon is a worldwide system of man. Those tentacles stretch all around the world. When you look at Australia, that's British territory. When you look at the Americas, especially when you get to the Caribbean areas, some of those are British territories. But unfortunately, some have been brainwashed, wanted to pretty much having tunnel vision, just focusing on the United States and forgetting that, wait a minute, United States is a daughter of British. British is the mother of the United States. So wherever, the tentacles that the United States have, think about what British has. Who owns Canada? Come on, family. Who owns Australia? That's a continent. Who has control of the entire continent of Australia? See, this is what we miss it. This is where we miss it. When I say we, I'm referring to our people. Let me see here. Let me just look at a couple of comments here. I see a comment here. Let me read it real quick. West Africa have to put their money in French banks that charge them to get their money out of France will not allow Africa to have a bank. And see, this is my response right here. And that's how they hustle them. Africa, take your money out of there. You don't need their permission to start your own banks. That's the problem. We see many of these African nations have been, I mean, literally been downtrodden so much to the point that many of these African nations, the leaders have a low self-esteem. African nations don't need permission. They have more resources than what the French has, far more. But the key is they don't want these nations to be powerful, to gain their own independence. So they create this dependency, these predatory loans. But again, to your point here, many of our are still in debt to them. All right. So really appreciate it. Thank you for the comment. Let me look at some of the super chats here. I didn't realize I had some super chats here. Let me just go through this real quick and we'll continue. Ambush Predator. Hello from St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Peace and love and respect to We Woke Now and all that want to learn. Really appreciate it, my brother. Thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate you. Let's see here. Sent another Cash App here. They were with us and still are. We are at war. Wake up. That's right. We are at war. We got to wake up. All right. Let's see here. Mac, World War III is coming with the Black Horse of Revelation. All right. Let's see here. Appreciate it. Author Candace Phillips Anderson. Thank you for the love and support. Hallelujah, teacher, pastor. Welcome back. Well, I appreciate you, sister. Thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate it. Let's see here. What else? Who else do we have here? Let me scroll down here. I think I see a couple more here. Shakar. Thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate it, my brother. Let's see here. Ambush Predator. They are making plans as they are coming back to Africa. Absolutely. Let's see here. The United States is the daughter of Babylon, along with the seven sister countries. And again, when we think about it, that tentacle is worldwide. And that's one of the things that many people miss. They just focus on the United States. But the United States came from under British. British is the source. But there's other countries, family, that falls up under this umbrella. All right. That's the point I want to make. Appreciate it, Ambush Predator. Thank you for the love and support. And thank everyone for the love and support. Really appreciate it. So let's get back over here. Let me go back over and bring my mouse back over. All right. So let's deal with this prophecy. Let's confirm a few things here. Right. Let's start with Joel chapter 2, verse 4 through 7. This is why I go back and I say that this is dealing with our people. Now, I dealt with Revelation chapter 9. Right now, look at what Joel has to say. This prophetic prophecy, this prophetic word about our people. Joel chapter 2, verse 4 through 7. Let's see what it says. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses and as horsemen. So shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face, the people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. You see what I'm giving at? So what I read in Revelation chapter 9, it's confirming Joel's prophecy. We're confirming we're confirming that we're dealing with an invasion of people. In Joel chapter 3 talks about the Greeks, talks about our people being enslaved to the Grecians, being sold to the Grecians. Even go as far as saying that we're going to be exploited so much. We are going to be exploited so much. We're going to be raped by all these different nations that Yah has to do a blood transfusion just to make sure that the remnants stay intact. Hallelujah. Come on, family. This I'm giving you scripture to confirm what I just read about Revelation chapter 9. We're dealing with an invasion. This can easily be the transatlantic world war. Easily. Let me prove it. Because many don't understand that that's a world war that took place. Let's go to slavery in the Catholic Church. Look at what it says here. Papal grants the kings of Portugal, giving authority to enslave Saracens and other non-Christians of West Africa, with whom Christendom is at war. From 1452 to 1514, in 1442, a Portuguese captain brought to the Gold Coast some Moorish prisoners of war, exchanged them for 10 Negro slaves, and brought these back to Lisbon. A trading settlement was established at Lagos by 1444. It would appear that by 1452, the Portuguese were anxious to establish their property rights over their newly discovered West African territories. And so Pope Nicholas V, Santa Claus, right? That's Santa Claus' name, right? Saint Nick. Pope Nicholas V, who achieved sainthood, right? Saint Nicholas was approached and was apparently led to believe that these territories of the Guinea coast were inhabited by Saracens and other enemies of Christendom. There is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war. Let me say that again. Let me say this again, because this is the part that many miss it, proving that this was a world war. It says there is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war to the situation of West Africa. Let me say it again. There is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war. So this was a war. It was a war. It was a world war, because all the principal nations, the large superpowers at that time, they came together and they went to war to enslave our people in Africa. Don't think that these African nations just stood by and just let them roll up in there. No, they fought back. But when you start understanding what Revelation is describing, think about how the ships would look like. What these slave ships can look just like locusts, and the cannons that's on there. They didn't have cannons during the times of when the Egyptians had ships. Back when Israel was enslaved to the Egyptians. These ships that these Europeans had, the weaponry that they had, the guns that they had, the artillery that they had, that's how they were actually able to empower one tribe to go at another tribe. So they had the tribes canceled each other out, then end up enslaving both of them. Think about the artillery. Think about the hair, the women hair. Think about how the Caucasians, the Europeans, wore their hair at the time. Think about this, family. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple, family. So as we see here, let me zoom this in. I should have put this in red. Let me see if I can put it in red real quick. That's right. They brought their diseases too, like tuberculosis. Let me see here. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can put this in bold, because I want to make sure you guys get this here. Let me see here. I think it's this one. Let me make sure. All right. Make sure this is the one I'm looking for. All right. Let me do it this way. I want to make sure I have the right one up. I'm going to pull this up real quick. All right. Yeah. This is which one? I'm going to change the slide real quick so you guys can see. All right, let me pull this up. That's not the one I want. I want this one right here. I'm going to change the slide around a little bit. Let me move this around. All right. Because I want to make sure you guys see this. And if you need to take a screen print, a screenshot, feel free to do so. But I want to change the slide real quick. Let me move something around. Because I want to make sure you see the point of emphasis here. All right, let me fast forward. I'm almost there. All right, here we go. Let me fix the slide real quick. All right. Let me fix the slide real quick. All right, let's see. Because I really want you guys to see this. All right, bear with me 1 second. Oh, that's not it. Let me see. Let me change this picture. All right, slavery in the Catholic Church. Let's see. All right, let me make sure I got this right. All right. All right, let me bear with me 1 second, fam. Let me make sure I got the right file. Yeah, slavery in the Catholic Church quote. Oh, I got you. I got the wrong one. All right. Just wanted to make sure I got the right file. Slavery in the Catholic Church. All right, that's not what I'm looking for. Might have to do it another time, family. I thought I had it here. Let me try one more thing. If not, I thought I had it here. All right, let's try it. Make sure I spelled it correctly. Yeah, slavery. And yeah, this is crazy here. Let me do it this way. All right, this is it right here. All right, I got it. Okay, now let me show you here. This is the point that I really want to make sure you guys see this. All right, I just want to highlight this here. Let's go back here. All right, let's try this again. All right, so let's go to this slide right here so you guys can see here. All right, I just want to make sure this is bold. There is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war. So, family, this is telling us, this is proving that this was a world war. This wasn't just some slave trade that we've been dumbed down to understanding our own history. It was a world war. As you see here, it was a world war. Applied the well-known contemporary rules of war to the situation in West Africa, whereas the Portuguese were well aware the local Negro inhabitants were not Saracens, were not Muslims, and were not the enemies of Christendom. And so let's see who Saracens are. And this will give you more clarity to what I just read about slavery in the Catholic Church. So Saracens in the Middle Ages, any person, in other words, Arab. So it's telling you that our ancestors were not Arabs. Turks, telling you that our ancestors in West Africa was not Turks, or others who profess the religion of Islam. So that tells you that most of our ancestors that was kidnapped, raped, murdered, put on those slave ships, they were not practicing Islam. They was practicing Torah. It's a fact. That's why you see me. That's why some of you guys have saw the video in the beginning, and you see me playing this video from time to time about this the church in Savannah. The church in Savannah, First African Black Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. Why is this important? Well, this is why it's important to our community. Let me go here real quick. I'm trying to get my mouse here. All right, let me show you, family, why is this important? Because this is us. Look at what they say about the church down there. Here it is. Here it is. Let me show you here.
Look on the outside edge of the pews. Look on the outside edge of the pews where you are. You see the different markings alongside the edge of the pews? They represent the different tribes that made up our congregation back then and spoke over 6 different languages among themselves. These were small tribes enslaved by larger tribes and sold to Europeans as they came along the African coast. One of the major languages they spoke back then was that of Aramaic and also too of Hebrew, which means the writings read from bottom to top. Assalamu alaikum. Which means, peace be unto you. It's not a Muslim term. It's actually the same greeting which Christ gave into the disciples when he met them in that region. Most countries in that region read from right to left. Here in America, we read from left to right. That's why the pastors in the St. John's window up front here are going in numbers 2 through 7 from the right-hand side over to the left.
This is First African Baptist Church, the oldest black church in North America. The building built by slaves. The gentleman that laid the first brick laid the last. The balcony hold pews that actually were built by slaves. They have the oldest information in this building. That information is written in cursive Hebrew writing.
So, family, this is some of the languages that our ancestors were writing on those slave ships. They weren't illiterate as what the secular would try to teach about our ancestors. Just that they didn't speak this English, this foreign language that came to them. They didn't understand that language. But on the average, they spoke multiple languages. And truth be told, the Hebrew that you hear them teaching this, I'm not even going to call it Hebrew. But many of the definitions of the Hebrew words came from a tribe that is called the Bambara. Let's see if I have the book near me. I don't have the book in front of me. Thought I did. Come on, family. Bambara. That's how they got that's how many of the definitions of the words that they were able to get from some of the tribes that the Israelite tribes to help fill in their lexicon. Come on, family. I got the sources to prove it. So again, they made it clear that they knew that our ancestors were not Arabs. They were not Turks. They were not professing to be part of this Islamic faith, even though we know that it was a very small group that practiced Islam. You know, we understand that. But the majority of the people they were not practicing Islam. They were not Arabs, they were not Turks, and they were well aware of this. All right, that's the point that I want to make. So the Saracens are Arabs and Turks. So let me give you another article here, still dealing with the same thing. And look at what it says, right? Look at what it says. The treatment of black Gentiles was addressed in 1445 and 1455 when Pope Nicholas V issued a series of papal bulls that granted Portugal the right to enslave sub-Saharan Africans. Church leaders argued that slavery served as a natural deterrent and Christianizing influence to barbarous behavior among pagans. Using this logic, the Pope issued a mandate to the Portuguese King Alfonso V and instructed him. So guess what, family? Pope Nicholas issued a mandate to the Portuguese King Alfonso V and provided him instructions on what to do. Look at this. To invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagan whatsoever, and to reduce their personal to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his and their use and profit. See, some historians estimate that the total number of Africans captured, enslaved, and transported during the transatlantic slave trade, which was a world war, including those who died before or during transit, could be more than 20 to 30 million or more. It could be 20 to 30 million or more. But guess what? We know that number is high. See, this is the key, that a part of history that you don't hear about. See, the uncounted regional trades include the Indian Ocean slave trade, the trans-Saharan slave trade. That's the slave trade that took place that led up into the transatlantic World War. Because this is a World War II. They was going after the sheep herders, the wandering sheep herders, when we're dealing with the Arabs here. But then we had the Indian Ocean slave trade. How you think our people landed in India? I have a book here. I'm gonna see if I can pull it out, and I'll post it in the comment section. You can read about how our ancestors were being sold there, as far as China, Japan. All of them participated in this hustle, this enslavement of our people. It was not a slave trade. It was a world war. It was a war. They declared war. The Pope signed papal bulls granting, or should I say, stirring up to go to war with our ancestors in West Africa and other places of Africa, and that in itself. So the official number would be much higher because many voyages were not officially recorded. Let me say that again. Even though we see the numbers between 30 to 50 million, but the official number would be much higher because many voyages were not officially recorded, particularly in the early centuries of the trade or during periods when the trade was outlawed and operated illegally. So on record, there was anywhere from 30 to 50 million. But if we include these numbers, if we include this into the equation, we're talking like 100 plus million, 100 plus million. Come on, family. Come on, family. So family, that's what I wanted to kind of show you guys tonight, just to kind of talk about the prophecies of World War III. I'm not concerned about World War III. Why? Because if we put our history together and we start with our community, World War III already happened. If we include the atrocities of all the nations coming together, declaring war on our community, guess what, family? World War III already occurred. You're waiting for something that already happened. You are waiting for something that already occurred. The transatlantic world war is not a dumbed down or slave trade to kind of reduce the impact of what transpired. Come on, family. So I want to transition to dealing with two key prophecies that the Most High, through his Son, have given us. He's made this clear. And this is where many misunderstand. They don't really understand the order in which Matthew recorded of the Messiah giving these prophecies. He gave, when you read Matthew chapter 24, you'll see exactly what Christ laid it out, the chronological order and all. It's going in that succession. All right, let me see a question. I see a question real quick. Let me see what question this is. All right, let me see here. Pastor Kelly, I'm confused about Zechariah 14:12. As I understand, it to mean nuclear. And I want to make this clear. I just don't want to focus on weapon, because this is where we can really get as you're pointing out, is confusing, making you get confused. Let's not try to pinpoint weapons. You know, when you start getting into the details of trying to say this weapon, it could be this, it could be that. I was doing the same thing. I'm not trying to get into what weapons it is, but let me just pull it up real quick so I can see what you're making reference to. But I'm not getting caught up into, excuse me, I'll hit my microphone here. I'm not getting caught up into the weeds like that, because to me, I think that is just going overkill trying to determine nuclear weapons. I do know the Father made it clear. He said he was not going to punish the earth again. He's not going to wipe out the earth again. You know what he did with the flood, with the water? He's not going to let, regardless of how much nuclear arsenal the Russians have, the United States have, India have, China has, Japan has. Guess what? The Most High said that he's not going to allow the whole earth to be wiped out. So that's why I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. We're given too much power. But let me pull this up real quick. Zechariah 14. All right, let's see here. You said 14 and 12. Let me read that real quick, family. Zechariah 14 and 12. And this shall be the plague. See, think about it, family. Plague, with pestilence. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a nuclear. This is stemming from a nuclear war, because I think where you're getting at is nuclear fallout. But guess what? We see here the key. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away. Excuse me, my throat getting dry. I'm gonna have to give me some water. In their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Well, guess what? Pestilence could bring about this situation here. It could bring about what we see here: a pestilence, a plague, a virus. We already witnessed what the what we dealt with for almost 3 years in a row, but started about 4 or 5 years ago. We already dealt with that. We dealt with that particular plague. But this right here says, and this shall be the plague. So plagues can have this type of impact. So that's why I don't want to get into I really don't want to get into all the specifics of, trying to determine what weapons and all that. The scripture says plague, and we're just going to stick to what it says. All right. That's the point. We want to just make sure that we don't get out in left field. This is going to be the last one right here. No disrespect at all. Are we supposed to call people pastor? The scripture says the Most High gave pastors after his own heart. That's the word. That's the word. Pastor is synonymous to elder. But the scripture says the Most High gave pastors after his own heart. So I'm not sure why, and I know that there's certain people out there, certain groups out there that is teaching that we're not supposed to have titles. The scripture says that the Most High gave us pastors after his own heart. So just that in itself cancel out that, answer your question rather, or cancels out that logic that some have run with. Because again, guess who's going to be held accountable? Pastors. Who's been selling out who? Who's been scattering the sheep? These are pastors. These are leaders. But Jeremiah 3:15, it says, I'm just going to read it. And I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. So we have the word here, pastors. But then we have a warning to pastors. It says here, Jeremiah 23:1, woe be unto the pastor that destroy and scatter the sheep. For my pasture, saith Yahweh. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Elohim of Israel against the pastors that feed my sheep. So we see that pastors are leaders. They are teachers that feed my sheep. Ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, saith Yahweh. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them. So we have examples here. We have examples here. Look at this here. Verse 20. Like I said, I already read it here. It says, it lets you know that the Most High he's not pleased with the pastors. Many leaders that have what? Scattered the flock. So I just thought I'd answer that question, but I want to make sure that you understand, because I know where this come from in terms of who and what groups injected this into this awakening. You know, whether we say, teachers, whatever the case may be, but we know that pastors are leaders, because Jeremiah makes it clear the Most High give what? Pastors after his own heart. Hope that helps. All right. Appreciate the question. So let's get back into it. I want to get to just give you guys some bonus information, so that way you guys can understand how to process the scriptures and really go deeper with understanding the prophecies. Right. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. Let's go ahead and give clarity here, because I want to deal with two key periods. I want to show you the times of sorrow, which is the beginning of sorrows. Right. This is one area that many don't understand when they're reading Matthew 24. You see two key areas that Israel had to suffer. Matthew 24, the first part of it, the beginning of sorrows, that beginning of sorrows already passed. That was for the prophecy, that the prophecies were for the disciples. That was for Christ's time. That was for the destruction of Israel of that time, the sacking of Jerusalem. That prophecy already took place. So this is where we have to be careful taking that prophecy and trying to bring it to today. See, many people are using that prophecy or like the Great Tribulation is about to happen. The Great Tribulation already done happened. What was the Great Tribulation? The transatlantic world war with Israel, not dealing with any other community. Again, if you start with our community, you'll see how everything lines up. So let's start here. Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. It says, Yahushua, Jesus, went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. Verse 2. And Yahushua said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall be thrown down. So look at here. So this is key. So the disciples, they were Christ. They are, looking at these buildings. They're looking at the temple. They are in awe. So look at what Christ says to them in response. Yahushua said it to them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So this prophecy that Christ is getting ready to explain to them is dealing with Jerusalem, the sacking of Jerusalem. This has nothing to do with something now. This prophecy already fulfilled itself. Matthew chapter 24, verse 3. Look at what it says. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately. So they pulled him aside privately. We can learn a lot from this Israel. We can learn a lot from this Judah. So many trying to expose and call people out. Hey, we can learn a lesson from this. Now, understand, if something happened publicly, you got to respond to it publicly. I understand that. Open rebuke is better than secret love. But guess what, family? There's many opportunities to pull people aside privately if you have a question. You guys already know I'm very responsive, even though I'm backed up in my email, but I'm responsive. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the signs of thy coming and of the end of the world? So the disciples is asking questions like we see people asking right now. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach, in other words, Christ, and shall deceive many. So the disciples asked the question. Let's go back here. I want to get ahead of myself. Oh, I missed verse 4. Oh, I didn't realize I did that. But I can read it from the back here. Let's read verse 4. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. So they asked the question, when is the end of the world? Christ had to say to his own disciples that have been walking with him for 3 years. For 3 years, many of them, not all of them walk with them at the exact same time, but on the average, 3 years. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. So they're walking with Christ, and Christ had to tell them, don't be deceived. They walking with Christ. They're getting fed directly from the Messiah, but it's still an opportunity for them to be deceived. It says, For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach. In other words, anointed. That's all it means. Mashiach means anointed. That's something that's tossed around right now. In the church, what do you hear all the time? Oh, that person is God, man, that person have such an anointed. That person sang the song, or they have an anointing on them. Y'all know you hear that all the time. Am I right, family? You hear people all the time using that phrase or using that word anointed. That gets tossed around. So when you see I am Christ, in other words, saying that they are anointed, and shall deceive many, and ye shall hear of what? Wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Verse 7, For all nations shall rise against nations, and kingdoms against kingdom, and and there shall be famines, pestilence, earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of what? Sorrows. So let me prove this to you guys. I'm going to walk you through that this particular prophecy up to this point, this is all dealing with who? This is dealing with the Israelites of that time during the time of Christ. This has nothing to do with today. This is a prophecy that's already been fulfilled. I can say that emphatically with confidence. It's already been taken care. It's already been fulfilled. Now, let me prove this. When is the beginning of sorrows? Listen with intelligence, right? That's what Christ said. Hearken, in other words, Shema. That's what that is here. Shema, right? Or Shema'a, however you want to pronounce it. Hearken. Let's see what hearken means. It says to hear intelligently. In other words, listen with intelligence. Obedience. Consider. This also means discernment, right? Let me show you here. Discern, give ear, obedient, obey, understand. Let me say this again. Shema, when Christ said hearken, he's telling his disciples, listen with intelligence, listen with obedience, consider what I'm getting ready to share with you. Discern, give ear, obedient, be obedient, obey, understand. Look at this. Look at this. I'm about to break this down. Did it begin with the destruction of the temple? That's what we got to answer this question. Did the times of sorrows, or the beginning of sorrows, did it start with the sacking of Jerusalem? Well, let's go to Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. Let's start it again. Let's slow walk this thing. And Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the building of the temple. That gives you that. This right here tells you what it is. Look at how he responded. Yahushua said it to them, see ye not all these things? See these buildings, see this temple here. Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left one, it says here, one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So let's confirm this with Luke chapter 21, verse 5 and 6. 2 or 3 witnesses, right? Now, this is going to confirm that this prophecy that I read to you, Matthew 20:24, that times of sorrow or the beginning of sorrows is dealing with the disciples' time. This is dealing with back in 20, 30, right? Actually, 70 AD is to be more exact, more specific of when this occurred. And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, as for these things which ye behold, the days will come and come in which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Come on, family. We getting this in. Now let's prove this with Josephus. I gotta put some Josephus here. He's going to confirm this of what transpired, that we're dealing with this prophecy, Matthew 24, the times of sorrow. Look at what Josephus says here, right? Now here, matter of fact, let me just read this up here. This is the captions that you see above, right? Jock Pompey had the city Jerusalem delivered up to him, but took the temple by force. How it says how he went into the Holy of Holies, as also what were his other exploits in where? Judea. Now here it was that upon the many hardships which the Romans underwent, Pompey could not but admire, right? Not only at the other instances of the I'm going to say Judah fortitude, because I don't even like this word Jew, because that word should not be there. We're dealing with Judah. This is a modern construct. The other instance of Judah, or we could say Israel, but especially that they did not at all intermix their religious services, even when they were encompassed with darts on all sides, for as if the city were in full peace. Their daily sacrifices, purifications, and every branch of their religious worship was still performed to Yahweh. So this is saying, even in the midst of the attacks, they still did the day-to-day sacrifices. They still operated as if this wasn't even happening, right? So then we'll go to Josephus' Jewish War, chapter 2, the footnotes. Look at what he says about the footnotes, and I want you guys to see this here. All right. Let me make sure I got this here. Did I put this in correct? Yeah. This is not the footnote. I thought I was going to do the footnotes, but this is also part of the footnotes. As you see here, this is confirming the Daniel's prophecy, right? That's why you see here. I'm going to go here in a second. All right. But let's look at the top here. It says, and now Titus gave orders to his soldiers that were with him to dig up the foundations of the Tower of Antonia, right? That wall, that Wailing Wall that you see over in Israel right now. Guess what, family? That's not the temple. That's Fort Antonia. That has nothing to do with the temple. That's remnants, a remnant of Antonia, Fort Antonia. So it says here, and now Titus gave orders to his soldiers that were with him to dig up the foundations of the Tower of Antonia and make him a ready passage for his army to come up, while he himself had Josephus brought to him, for he had been informed that on that very day, which was the 17th day of Panemus, as we see Tammuz, the sacrifice called the daily sacrifice had failed. It had not been offered, right? And this is the footnote that I was referring to. This is the footnote that you see down here. This is confirming, as you see here, the prophecy of Daniel chapter 27. The sacrifice is ceasing. The sacrifice will cease, rather. This was a remarkable day indeed. The 17th day of the 17th of Panemus. In other words, we see here footnote Tammuz, AD 70. When, according to Daniel's prediction, 606 years before, the Romans in half a week caused the sacrifices and oblation to cease. Daniel 9:27. So I'm further proving to you, family, that the prophecies, the time of sorrows or the beginning of sorrows, what Christ shared with his disciples, that was for that time, 70 AD, the destruction of the temple. All right. All right. Let me remove this here. All right. So let me continue here. All right. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. That's Christ's quote to his disciples. So let's go to verse 5 through 8. Let's highlight this real quick. It says here, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach. It shall deceive many. Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So yes, we have so many brothers and sisters. Every time something come up, they got to default to World War III. That is rumors of war. They sound so dejected. They sound so, it's crazy when you hear people that say that they believe in the Most High, but the way that they go through these prophecies as if they don't believe that the Most High have a plan for us. Come on, family. They sound so non-encouraging. They sound like they actually stirring up fear, even though Yah did not give us a spirit of fear, but that of sound mind. These guys, these people, these different prophets and prophetess, they are stirring up fear. This is how you stir up people to what? Give money. This is how you stir up people to move out of their homes. And when I say give money, get scammed. This is why so many people are getting scammed. End time prophecy, that's one of the things people use to scam, because people want to know what's the end of the world. And they'll come up with this doom and gloom. Come on, family. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. So guess what? War must come to pass, but the Most High said here, but the end is not yet. That's what he had to say to his disciples. For the nations shall rise against nations, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines, pestilence, earthquakes, and divers places. All these are the beginning of what? Sorrows. Come on, family. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So let's skip down to verse 9 and 10. Look at what it says. Then shall they deliver you up. Now he's dealing with his disciples. Look at this, family. This is now Christ. This is confirming that we're dealing with the disciples. We're dealing with that time 2,000 years ago. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Come on, family. Let's confirm this. Luke 21, starting at verse 12. Look at this. But before all these, they shall lay hands on you, persecute you. He's dealing with his disciples. They shall what? Persecute you, delivering you to the synagogue and into prison, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. So the time of sorrows occurred during the lifetime of the disciples. Let's go to John 16, verse 1 and 4. Let's further prove this. This is Christ talking to his disciples. He's letting them know they're going to be persecuted. This is an ongoing conversation. That's why Christ said, hey, he said, he told them before, this has been a conversation they had a number of times. Starting at verse 1, these things have I spoken unto who? You. He's dealing with his disciples, that ye should not be offended. His disciples of that time, the 12 disciples, they shall put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth Yahweh's service. Verse 3, and these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father nor me. Verse 4, but these things have I told you, that when the time come, or when the time shall come, ye may remember that I told you of them. And these things I said not unto you at the beginning, because I was with you. So Christ is letting his disciples know that they are going to have to go through persecution. This is dealing with 70 AD during that time. This has nothing to do with today. This is why I say be careful who you listening to, because many of these guys have no clue of what they are talking about when it comes to prophecy. Many will toss around these buzzwords, because I know many, when you saw the caption, are we World War III, or whatever the caption that I put in, World War III coming, I purposely put that there because I knew that it was going to draw a crowd, some extra people here that want to hear exactly what I'm going to say. Some probably was expecting me to give you a doom and gloom. Guess what? I'm not giving you a doom and gloom, because the Most High has a plan for his people. I'm not telling you to flee or go anywhere. I'm going to tell you to strengthen, solidify where you are. That's what Christ told his disciples. That's what he stated inside the prophecies. Secure where you are. Going to Africa is not going to cause the judgment to pass over you. There's judgment that's going to take place over in Africa. There's judgment that's going to take place over in South America, the Caribbean. This judgment's going to be there's a worldwide judgment that none of us can run from. Like Mobb Deep said back in the day, there's a war going on outside. No one can escape from. You can run, but you can't hide forever. You can't run from this war. You can't run from this judgment. It's coming to your doorstep, whether you like it or not. No matter where you are around the globe, no matter where you are around this world, whether you are in Africa, whether you are in Europe, whether you're in China, you're going to have to deal with the judgment no matter what. We got brothers and sisters that have fled, going to Africa and in sin, going over there causing all kinds of problems, because they still haven't been delivered spiritually. You got brothers and sisters that's part of this passport group going to different places like Brazil and these places, living foul, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Come on, family. Doesn't matter where you run to, you got to be holy no matter where you are. If you have the faith in the Most High and know that you're living a certain way, you can handle whatever things that come to pass. I'm not worried about what's happening in the administration with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wasn't elected, if either or, it's going to continue to get ugly. But I don't care. I don't fear any of that, because I know Yah has a plan, and I have confidence in the plan that Yah has for each and every one of us. Come on, family. Come on, family. Y'all better stop letting these people spook you guys. Y'all better stop letting these people spook you guys and start calling them out. Changing up on prophecies, trying to give you exact dates, then changing dates. There's not a single person that can give you an exact date of when the Father is going to cast judgment. Anyway, let me get back into here. So Christ told his disciples what was going to happen to them. So let me just highlight a couple of things here about the death of the disciples. Are there scripture that gives an actual account of the death of the apostles? Well, let me just give you a couple of things here. Acts chapter 12, starting at verse 1. Now about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the assembly. I don't like to even use the word church, because that's a deceptive word. They did not use that word church. Church is not equivalent to the assembly of witnesses, the Israelites, or should I say ha-kal kwahal ha-adaf yashara'al. I just said that in Hebrew. Right? In the Greek, it would be ecclesia, which means called out congregation, called out assembly, the Israelites. Church, that is a word of deception. That is a word that I believe is a trigger word for replacement. So now about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hand to vex certain of the assembly of Israel, and he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And because he saw it pleased Judah, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. So this is around the feast days. King Herod murdered James and took Peter as well, and said that, as you see here, this is during the high holy days. High holy days. And then we could get to secondary sources like Eusebius of Caesarea, ecclesiastical history, and it gives some additional accounts, right? This is dealing with, as you see here, the Apostle John in the Apocalypse, But look at what it says here. It is said that in this persecution that the apostles and evangelist John, who was still alive, was condemned to dwell on the island of Patmos in word. Listen to a tale which is not a mere tale, but a narrative concerning John the apostle. So this is saying this is not just a tale. This is the truth. This is handed down information about John the apostle, which had been handed down and treasured up in memory. For when after the tyrant's death, he returned from the Isle of Patmos to Ephesus, he went away upon their invitation to the neighboring territories of the Gentiles. And then we could go to Tertullian, the complete works of Tertullian. Look at what Tertullian says. 155 AD. Peter endured a passion like his Adonaiah, where Paul wins his crown in a death like John's, where the apostle John was first plunged unhurt into boiling oil and thence remitted to his island exile. See what she has learned, what taught, what fellowship has had with even our assemblies in Africa. Right? Let's go back to Eusebius. This is what dealing with John. Let's see here. Domitian, having shown great cruelty towards many, and having unjustly put to death no small number of well-born and notable men at Rome, and having caught without cause exiled and confiscated the property of a great many of illustrious men, finally became a successor of Nero in his hatred and enmity towards Alahayim. He was in fact the second that stirred up a persecution against us, although his father Vespasian had undertaken nothing prejudicial towards us. All right. Now, when we go back to Tertullian, I'm just going back and forth, and I'm mapping this out so that way you can understand the logic here. You can see what they're saying about the disciples when they were killed. It says, Peter is struck, that Stephen is overwhelmed by stones, that James is slain as is a victim at the altar, that Paul is beheaded, has been written in their own blood. And if a heretic wishes his confidence to the rest upon a public record, the archives of the empire will speak, as would the stones of Jerusalem. We read the lives of the Caesars. At Rome, Nero's was the first who stained the blood, the rising faith. Then is Peter girt by another when he is made fast to the cross. All right. And like I said, this is going back and forth, mapping this all together. It says here the publicity announcement, or the publicly announcing himself as the first among God's enemies, or Elohim's enemies. He was led on to the slaughter of the apostles. It is therefore recorded that Paul was beheaded in Rome itself, and that Peter likewise was crucified under Nero. And it goes on to say, the account of Paul and the Peter and Paul's is substantiated by the fact that their names are preserved in the cemeteries of that place even to this day. All right. So this is a prophecy towards Israel, right? About, as you see here, being hanged on a cross, being hanged on a tree, the curse of being hanged. Look at here. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of Alahayim, that thy land be not defiled, which Yahweh Alahayim, which giveth thee for an inheritance. So the beginning of sorrows is actually the time of Odin. Well, I know some of you guys is like, how did you get that out? Right? Time of sorrow, time of Odin. Let me see if I put the definition here. If not, I'll copy it over, because I was literally trying to put these slides together. Let me see if I have it here so you guys understand Odin. And family, these are some actual lynching photos of our ancestors. This is the time of Odin. Yeah, so you can tell by the fonts. let's see here. Let me see if I could pull up another presentation because I didn't finish cleaning this up. Let me see if this one has it in there. No, it's not this one. Leave the world behind. Let's see, battle. Let me try this one. Battle for Africa. That's it right here. That's not what I'm looking for. Bear with me 1 second, fam. Let me try one more because really, the lesson that I got this from is in another one of my slides. I've been trying to, put it together here, and I forgot to finish this up as far as cleaning this up. So some of the slides here are in another presentation. I just got to remember where it is. Got so many presentations. Didn't realize how many I have over the years. Let me try one more. Battle for Africa. Let's try this one. Battle for Africa. Yeah, just one here. Let me see. Let me see here. Man, I got so many slide presentations. I got to remember which one it is. Battle for Africa. Mystical Scrolls. Let me try Jacob's Trouble. I think it may be that one. Let me try this slide. I may bring this over. Oops. Oh. All right. Let me see if it's this one. Maybe this one. Nope, it's not this one. All right. Because I have a lesson I did on Jacob's Trouble. Yeah, family, I may have to table this and do part 2, maybe tomorrow. And that way I can get the slides together because I do have it together. But I got to remember what presentation it's under. Let me see here. I'm going to try one more. All right, I think I know where it is. Let me try one more thing, and I'll bring that presentation over because that one gives the information that I want to give, the point that I want to make. This one doesn't. Let me see here. Let me try it one more time. Odin. Which one is that? I think it's. Let me try this one right here. Yeah, I found it. I'm going to bring up another presentation. I'm going to get back to this one. And I just want to get to a point here. Let me get to this other presentation real quick. And then I'll come back to this. All right, we're going to go for another 10 minutes, but I want to get to a key point. Let me stop this presentation. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I'm still chilling here. Got my night light here. Let me see if I can get this one. Let's see here. Let me remove this one. And let me bring this one up. All right, let's go to this one here. I'm going to bring this one up. All right, let me share this screen. All right, let's see here. All right, let's do this one here. And let me go to a key point of this presentation that I want to get to. All right. All right, I'm going to skip down to, this is where I want to get to about the times of sorrow. All right. Yeah. All right, let me switch. Let me get to this one. This is what, slide 78. All right, let me make sure I get there. All right, as you guys see, I have this presentation is pretty large. All right, let's go to 78. All right, this is slide 78. All right, this is a lesson I did about Easter. So I know this may, look a little frightening with the rabbit, the evil looking rabbit. But anyway, let me just go ahead and show you where I want to get to. This is where we left off, right? So let me define the definition of sorrows. All right, let's see what it means. This is why I say the time of Odin. All right, look at this word here, right? It says is makab or makov rather. We see here affliction, we see grief, we see pain, we see sorrow, right? Okay, so let's look at the Greek definition of sorrow. This is what we see in the Greek when it says time of sorrow or the beginning of sorrows. Look at this this Greek word, it says Odin, right? Odin. So when we look at the time of sorrows, guess what? And I'm going to give clarity of Yah. We're not in the time of sorrows. We're in a time of affliction always since the sacking of Jerusalem. But the time of sorrows that Christ is dealing with, that is dealing with the time of the disciples that I just pointed out. That's not now, right? The time of sorrows that Christ prophesied, the beginning of sorrows is 70 AD. So yeah, we could say we're going through afflictions right now, but the time of sorrow, the beginning of sorrows that Christ prophesied on is 70 AD. That's why I wanted to point out. I don't want us to mix the two up because you can't, people will say that we're in the time of sorrows now. No, we just transitioning from what is called the Great Tribulation. And that's where a lot of the mix up is, because many thinking that we're getting ready to go into a Great Tribulation. No, we already been there. Our people been in the Great Tribulation. That is the Great Tribulation, the tribulation towards our people, not dealing with the other nations. The transatlantic slave trade, or world war rather, that was a great tribulation. So I want to make sure you guys understand the time of Odin, the time of sorrow, the beginning of sorrows was 70 AD. I want to reiterate that. So here, Odin, when they say the time of the Gentiles, the time of who? Odin, right? Look at this, transliterated to Odin. And it says here, intolerable anguish in reference to the dire calamities precede the advent of the Messiah. Now let's fast forward here. Let's fast forward. So the Greek word for sorrows is Odin. And look at who Odin is. Odin is referred to as Norse All-Father, called God of the hanged, because the trees of his sacred groves at Uppsala were laden with hanged human sacrifices. So I'm dealing with the atrocities of our people. And I want to make it clear. Yes, we went through affliction, and we still going through affliction. But guess what? Not this affliction that Christ prophesied about. That was for 70 AD. But we're being hung. We're dealing with a type of afflictions that comes with the territory of what? The Great Tribulation. So Odin, Norse All-Father, called God of the hanged, because the trees of his sacred groves at Uppsala were laden with hanged human sacrifices, even as late as the 10th century. See, this is the original image of Santa Claus, for those that don't know. So even as late as the 10th century, Each victim's drama, did I just point that out? Drama recapitulated the death rebirth of Odin himself. So let's go back to the definition of Odin in the Greek. Look at this: pain, sorrow, travail, dire calamities, right? Anguish, that's the key. Intolerable anguish. So let's go back over to Odin. Look at this. Look at this. It says each victim's drama recapitulated the death rebirth of Odin himself when he acquired his divine powers by giving himself up to immolations, right? On the world tree, wounded in the side with a spear, he said, I know that I hung on the windy tree for 9 whole nights, wounded with a spear dedicated to who? Odin, myself to myself. So the time of sorrow is a prophesied lynching period as the perpetrators pay homage to Odin or Odin. And guess what? If you study what happened to the Israelites in the sacking of Jerusalem, they had crosses, they had trees stood up all through the paths with our ancestors hung on those. That's the part of history that most don't know. They were hanging Israelites on all through the city in the roads that led into to Israel, to Jerusalem. So the Romans pierced the Messiah in his side to bring drama to him and pay homage to Odin. Let me say that again, because this is one thing that many may not understand, right? Odin. Remember when Christ got pierced in his side by the Romans? They was what? Inflicting Odin. That's part of the ritual. That's in the Greek culture as well as the Norse culture as well. It's all through the descendants of Japheth, which we would say the Europeans. The Romans pierced the Messiah in his side to bring drama to him and pay homage to Odin. Not only was the Messiah lynched, but his disciples were lynched. Acts 12, 1-3, we dealt with this a little bit. I'm not going to go through all of this. This is what I just read. Now about the time King Herod stretched forth his hand to vex a certain of the assembly of Israel, he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. And because he saw it pleased Judah, he proceeded further to take Peter also. All right. I already went through this. I don't need to go through this again. All right. I'm just fast forwarding. All right. So again, the beginning of sorrows is actually the time of Odin, right? The beginning of the time of Odin, right? The time of the Gentiles is actually the time of Odin. The transatlantic slave trade or war is actually a time of Odin, right? Look at these, going back to these pictures here, but I'm going to give clarity on that. These here, look at this. Dozen of our ancestors' ears. Do you know that they were eating our people? They were eating our people. Look at this, hang. This is in the city. Fire escape. Didn't matter. This is up north. This right here is a mother who is hanged next to her son, 13-year-old son, and they sodomized him in front of her while she was still alive. 40 white guys raped and sodomized her son, and the picture of him, his pants is down at his ankle. Many of the old pictures that I have of lynchings, you'll see our ancestors, the men pants are down. They were literally sodomizing our ancestors, the men. They were raping the men. So the lynching period is actually a time of Odin. All right, let me see here. Let me go back here. Actually, no, this is dealing with Sam Holt, how they ate him. Look at this. They cooked him. Before the torch was applied to the pyre, the Negro was deprived of his ears, fingers, and genital parts of his body. Look at this here. It says it was cut to pieces. The bones were crushed into small bits, and even the tree upon which the wretch met his fate was torn up and disposed as souvenirs. The Negro's heart was cut into several pieces, as it says, as was also his liver. They was performing satanic rituals. This is satanic rituals. The liver and the heart, those are satanic rituals. Small pieces of bones went for 25 cents. And a bit of the liver crisply cooked sold for 10 cents. They wasn't just putting this on a trophy case. They were eating this. As soon as the Negro was seen to be dead, there was a tremendous struggle among the crowd, which had witnessed his tragic end to secure the souvenirs. Come on, family. Knives were quickly produced, and soon the body was dismembered. All right. Let me fast forward. I want to get to a key point. Look at this, family. These are some of the things that our ancestors had to go through. This is what they're telling us to get over. This is what the name stealers, they're trying to tell us they had it worse than us. Using all the so-called civil rights bill that was supposedly be geared towards us now has been shifted and changed to everyone but us. Look at this, treating our brothers and sisters as if this was an animal, like how they would do ships when they have fish that are on the docks. Look at this. Look at where his pants are. See how his pants are hanging? You guys can see how they raped this man. All right, let me go back to the other slide. But I just wanted to show that part because I didn't have the definition in here. This is part of the Great Tribulation. But within the Great Tribulation, there is what? Affliction. There's going to be sorrow. But this is not the beginning of sorrows, the time of sorrows that Christ referred to in the first portion of his prophecy. That's the point I want to make. But we still had to go through affliction. We still had to go through. Look at this stuff, man. This is unreal. All these pictures are real. Even back these are brothers here. These are brothers. This picture that you see in the background, these are brothers. These are brothers. All of them are brothers. Look at this. Like game. All right, let me change over to another one. Let me take this back down. Let me go back to my previous presentation, and then we're going to wrap this up. All right. All right, let's go back to, because I didn't have the definition, so I want to use that for the definition. Let's go back over to here. All right, let me bring this back up, and then we can kind of skip through. You'll tell that this is, I was trying to clean this slide up because you'll see some of the fonts in red. So this means that I was trying to clean it up. All right, let me skip here. Let's go back here. All right, family, let's see here. All right, seeing what time it is. I know we went for a while, but let me just close out this point that I want to make. All right, let's see here. Is it? Let's go back here. All right. Let's see here. So is the lynching period the time of sorrows, the time of Odin? The lynching period, which never stopped, is a time of sorrows, but not the one the Messiah explained to his disciples. That's the point that I want to make. When we're dealing with the lynching period, right? When we're dealing with the times of sorrow, the afflictions that we had to deal with, the lynching period, which never stopped, is a time of sorrows, but not the one the Messiah explained to his disciples. And then when we go back to Matthew chapter 24, verse 9 and 10, look at what it says again. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. Ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Then shall many be offended. shall betray one another, shall hate one another. All right. And then we could confirm this with Josephus. See, both survival and selfishness are seen in the last days of Jerusalem. When Titus besieged the city, the wealthy focused on themselves and neglected the poor, and the powerful took what they wanted. As the siege wore on, family and pestilence struck. So look at this: dog eat dog, right? The strong took the weak, and the weak revealed his neighbors' hidden supplies. Oh, you know what? Let me put this up here. I didn't have my presentation up. My apologies, fam. I'm steady going through my presentation. Let me bring this back up, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, there we go. I thought I had it up, family. My apologies. All right, so again, this is just highlighting some of the things that happened during the 70 AD. Within the walls, within the city walls, betrayal and murder ran rampant in order to survive. Others outrightly betrayed their nation and went over to the side of the Romans in order to save their lives. They were dealing with sedition, and this is what sedition is. Sedition is rebellion, uprising, revolt, concerted attempt to overthrow civil authority, violent strife between factions, civil or religious orders or disorder, riot, rebelliousness against authority, civil order, dissension, strife, rebellion, mutiny, a going apart, separation. All right. So Josephus talks about this. He's giving clarity to what happened in 70 AD that Christ prophesied about. As Josephus was speaking thus with a loud voice, these seditions would neither yield to what he said, nor did they deem it safe for them to alter their conduct. But as for the people, they had a great inclination to desert to the Romans accordingly. In other words, they began to sell out. Leaders began to sell their own people out. They began to cross the enemy's line. We see that today, right? Some of them sold what they had, and even the most precious thing that they had been laid up as treasures by them for every small matter, and swallowed down pieces of gold that they might not be found out by robbers. So they had jewelry, as you see here. It was so bad there that they were literally swallowing their gold pieces just so that way no one can steal it. It says that they might not be found out by the robbers. And when they had escaped to the Romans, went to stool and had wherewithal to provide plentiful for themselves. But as for the rich, or the richer sort, it proved all one to them, whether they stayed in the city or attempted to get out, for they were equally destroyed in both cases. For every such person was put to death under this pretense that they were going to desert, but in reality, the robbers might get what they had. The madness of the seditious did also increase together with their famine, and both those miseries were every day inflamed more and more. For there was no corn which anywhere appeared publicly, but the robbers came running into and searched men's private houses, and then if they found any, they tormented them because they had denied that they had any. And if they found none, they tormented them worse because they supposed that they had more carefully concealed it. So desperate times, people do desperate things. So Josephus is bearing witness to what Christ prophesied about. Right? So I'm just giving you some highlights here. I'm not going to read all of this, but look at this right here. This is telling you just how bad it was. In so much that children pulled the very morsels that their father were eating out of their very mouths, and that was still more than to be pitied. So did the mothers do as to their infants. So children was literally eating out of their father's mouths. That's how bad it was. And look at here. So did mothers do as to their infants. And when those that were most dear, perishing under their hands, they were not ashamed to take from them the very last drops that might preserve their life. Come on, family. It was that bad. This is what Christ prophesied about. All right. I just highlighted a couple of things. I'm not going to get into all this. After all these things, it gets worse. That's the key. After all these things, it gets worse. It gets worse. Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. All during this time, it's already hard. The Romans are persecuting them. And now, Israel has been sacked. They are hanging them all over the place. And in the midst of this struggle, false prophets rose up. As we see here, many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. This is still dealing with the beginning of sorrows, the sacking of Jerusalem. All right. Oh, I'm not going to go into that. Let me fast forward. I'm not going to go into prophet. All right. All right. All right. We're going to close out here because I don't want to do all of this here tonight. We're just going to close out here. Now I will do part 2, and we'll continue with the time of sorrows, and then we'll deal with the Great Tribulation, and then we'll deal with the mark of the beast. We'll continue to deal with this so-called World War III, which we're not going into World War III. World War III already took place when we add our history to it. All right, family. Let me give some shout outs here. I did not realize that we have quite a few cash apps here, but again, we'll get back to this lesson. We'll do a part 2. We'll if not tomorrow, we'll do this next weekend. I want to continue to teach you on this subject about World War III. And I just kind of wanted to use this as an opportunity too, just to give you guys clarity when you're reading the scriptures, when you're reading these prophecies, that you properly understand. You have to start with Israel. We cannot allow them to dumb down what happened to our people, which is the agenda of the administration coming in. They're going to do everything that they can to minimize or whitewash our experience, the strongholds, the struggles that we had to deal with as a people. All right. So let me just go ahead and give some shout outs here. And again, really appreciate you guys. We appreciate the love and support. Let's give some shout outs here. We'll do part 2 here. Let me go ahead. I didn't realize we had these many shout outs. So I'm going to start at the top and work backwards. Let me see here. Ambush Predator. They are low vibration beings. The book called The Delectable Negro. Yes, I got that book. I have that book. That book, man, just the cannibal things that they were doing. They were eating our people. And we proved that. There's a lot of sources that's out there to prove. On those slave ships, they were eating our people on those slave ships. And also they were feeding to our own ancestors people. Come on, fam. They were doing some brutal things. But you hit it on the nail, Ambush Predator. Thank you for the love and support, because you contributed multiple times, and I really appreciate the love and support to you. Thank you again, and family. Let's show some love to Ambush Predator. I really appreciate you, my brother. Really appreciate you, and thank you for the love and support again. Let's see here, Nora Bain. Really appreciate it. You're teaching strong. Really appreciate it, sis. I plan on being up in Philly pretty soon. We'll let you know. I'm trying to confirm a couple of things, and I'll be back up there to teach. So I'll give you a heads up. Really appreciate the love and support again. Let's see, Mac. Thank you for the love and support. What is the temple being built in death of 2 witnesses at Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 through 8? We're after. Okay, I have a lesson that I taught on that. I can't answer that tonight because that's just too much to answer. But I do have a lesson that deals with the 2 witnesses, and I actually break down Revelation chapter 11. Let me see if I can find it here real quick, and I'll post it inside the comment section for you. Let's see here. Let me see if I could pull it up real quick. All right, bear with me 1 second. All right, let me pull it up here. 2 witnesses. Let me see here. All right, let me copy this over. I believe it's this one. I'll just post it. If it's not, then I'll get you the copy of it. But let me post this in the comment section. Let me post it there. Here's the link to it. The 2 witnesses. All right, but really appreciate you, Mac. Thank you for the love and support. And again, thank you, Ambush Predator, for the multiple contributions. Really appreciate it. Definitely do not take it lightly. Thank you again. Let's see here. I'm Elder in the building. Bithia, thank you for Bathias. Thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate you. I truly enjoy your teaching, Pastor Kelly Thawada. Thank you, Elder, for the love and support. Really appreciate all that you do. Thank you again. Let's see here. And family, let's show some love to the elder, our elder that is in the building. Irv 704. Y'all bless you, brother, and keep up the great work. Thank you again for the love and support. And family, thank you all for your contributions tonight. Really appreciate you guys. And we're going to keep this momentum going. We got a lot of work to do. We're doing so much. And family, I really appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your schedule to watch this presentation tonight. And one last one here. Pat, thanks for your messages. Pastor Kelly, all praises to the Most High for all his words and his messages to you or through you. Thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. So family, really appreciate all the love and support. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. I know it's kind of late. I didn't realize it's almost 2:30 in the morning. But thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate it. We're going to close out here right now. And in the words of Christ, well, not Christ, actually, in the words of Yahweh, the Father, that he gave to Moses to give to Israel, Exodus chapter 13, verse 14, 13 and 14. Let me say that again. Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, they will never have power over you again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker. We have to hold our peace. We have to hold our peace. The Hebrew word there is charash, which means be quiet. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel.